Prometheans, all hail the staff. May the blessings of Maluzin be upon us. Welcome to today's doubleheader. News from the Vestry plus a bonus Sweary sermon on magic, attraction and synchronicity. We'll start with a Sweary sermon. I will be using bad language from the off. Normally I don't swear when I've got my dog collar on. I beg yours and Maluzin's forgiveness, but I feel in this instance it is the most honest and effective way to proceed. It's also justified by its subject, and I should issue a serious trigger warning if stories of abuse upset you, particularly school days stuff. I mean, it was nothing too bad for me, but if it brings back memories for you, then maybe skip this post. Okay, you ready? When I was a kid, just starting secondary school, I had a horrible, dirty old nonce of a teacher. His name was Dennis Heft. Don't worry, he can't sue me because he's dead. And because he was eventually banged up for being a dirty old nonce. This motherfucker was a bully. He taught English and would regularly humiliate and physically and verbally abuse the pupils in his classes. I was one of the lucky ones, really. No one was safe, but he tended to pick on the kids who weren't so good with words. The class would fill with nervous, defensive laughter, and I think he enjoyed this. He enacted cruelty as a form of entertainment. At 11 years old, Heft utterly terrified me. I had the strangest coping strategy, which I remember to this day. Being a Welsh family, we always had a cooked breakfast. On the mornings that I had a lesson with Heft, I would cut up my food in a particular way. I felt that if I did this precisely, slicing the fried bread in parallel lines, evenly spreading the tomato, cutting up the bacon into perfect rectangles, then somehow this would protect me. Heft's ire could not be stopped, but perhaps I believed it might be directed. Of course, now I think of this as a nascent or maybe pure form of magical action. After a break from Heft during my mid-teens, I had him again for my A-levels. He was still a total cunt of a man, but by 17 years old, I was about the same size as him, and I was pretty fit and strong too. Heft ran a boxing club, which was actually where he did his proper noncing rather than straightforward abuse. But if it came to a fight, I felt I had a shot at kicking the shit out of him, and this mitigated my fear. Eventually, after some tedious exchange with him where he lost his temper with me, I simply gave up attending his classes. He did nothing about it until the very last day of school when he wrote to my parents. Anyway, that cunt deserves no more words spent on him. I wanted to bring up my breakfast magic because one of our mightiest Prometheans, Tom, emailed me an honest question about magic this week. Tom wanted to know if I ever felt there was a connection between me burning my money and living in a perilous financial state, in the sense that there is some magical connection between my acts of sacrifice and me having a shitty job that doesn't pay very well. It's a searching question because while I don't believe that magic and ritual work in a cause-effect way, often in moments when I'm feeling a bit down, where I've found myself wondering the same thing. Let's get the obvious stuff out of the way. Of course, burning money makes you poorer. Even more so, dedicating oneself to a project like this, spending all that I have and haven't got to try to nurture it, and choosing a job that gives me the headspace I need. All of these things are causally responsible for me having to drive a van to earn a wage. But none of that earthly stuff is what Tom and I are getting at. This is about cutting bacon into perfect rectangles to direct powerful forces outside of your control. So does money burning enact a sort of law of revulsion rather than a law of attraction? The simple answer is I just don't think magic works like that at all. All that manifestation law of attraction stuff we see on the socials is, to me, like self-help work. It's not magic. I see ritual as creating an indent or curvature in the magical dimension. Synchronicities swirl around these anomalies and flow down to us. Hence my experience, and maybe yours too, of a clustering of coincidences around magical actions. We have to live with the earthly laws of cause and effect, but within that we make choices. Perhaps the most important determinant of the choices we make is, simply put, will it make money? Or at least, what utility will this choice bring to either me or society at large? In the Money Burner's Manual, I write about the joy of living magically, of letting go of that utilitarian mindset and following the signs. The simple act of regarding a coincidence as a synchronicity is itself a magical action. It is an expansion of the possible, an acceptance that mystery rather than knowledge is the primary state of being. When I go too far the other way, when I succumb to hubris, and when I start to believe that I'm directing the powers towards giving me an easier time financially, I conceive of it as burning money is creating a lack. I'm creating a natural vacuum into which other money will simply have to flow. Thinking like this can be dangerous to one's financial well-being, although I have encountered it quite often in others throughout my life. I knew one successful businessman who swore by it. Recklessness viewed as courage underpinned by a universe will provide attitude. And I reckon the magical logics are just a different version of the laws of manifestation and attraction. I could talk about this a lot more. I'd love to bring in the concept of play, which David Graeber encourages us to think of as the basis of physical reality, as the ultimate natural principle. He also said, and this is the point I'm trying to get at here about living magically, if you think of the world in that way, it's a very different place. But we have work to do. Specifically, I need to talk about Michael Sheen's £1 million giveaway, which aired on Channel 4 last night. Okay, so Welsh actor Michael Keane used £100,000 of his own money to buy up £1 million worth of high-interest debt and then wrote it off. The project took him 2 years, and he wants it to act as a springboard to change some of the laws on lending to make it easier and cheaper for poor people like me to get credit. The documentary ends with a meeting with Gordon Brown, who bailed out the banks in 2000.